Hello, hello, and welcome back to Cryptids of the Corn podcast. I am the great and powerful Mr. E, and today I am joined by Turmentic. Thank you for coming on. Sorry it's been so long.
My guy, I'm super excited to be here. You all were some of the most amazing people that I actually met at CryptidCon back in November. I remember coming over to your booth a couple times and hanging out and talking with you and telling me all about your cards in the binder. I was stoked to see all of you at Water Tower as well, the Frogman Festival.
Yeah.
And I'm honored that you asked me to come here and talk about MetaZoo with you.
Oh, we're so excited because as me and you've talked off camera, me and my wife love the cards, we love MetaZoo, we love the culture, but we don't know really anything about the lore and the back and stuff. So the Water Tower event, the Loveland Frogman Festival, they hooked up together. That was really cool to see because that was a side that we probably had never seen, at another conference or whatever. That was awesome. And the stuff we're going to talk about, it was so I've been to all these conferences all around the country. And you always see people dressed up, but it's the most scuba gear I've ever seen in my life, just being worn out.
And that was one of the really amazing things about Water Tower, and one of the awesome things that I think MetaZoo thought of was, and people that didn't actually go to the Water Tower, I know that you guys did some coverage. I have a video over on my channel going over the Water Tower, but the main event, took place in the heart of all of the vendors at the Great Wolf Lodge at the Frogman Festival. So everyone that was visiting the actual festival got a chance to see the MetaZoo actual tournament going on. And it was brilliant, in my opinion.
100%. Because I want to build off of that. Before we continue, please plug your social medias and all that stuff. We're all about growth and stuff like that. And then anybody that has questions, hold them. We'll take time every once in a while and we'll go through all the questions for everybody. But please ask questions. Because I got a bunch, and I know you guys listening got a bunch. Sorry, now go ahead.
It's super easy to find me. My name is Turmentic. All of my socials are at Turmentic. Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. I've been very, very fortunate to be able to get at Turmentic pretty much for everything. So it's Discord even. So it's super easy to actually find me.
Sorry, awesome. So like you were saying, though, that the Water Tower tournament was in the middle of the Loveland Frogman Festival, and me and Jay would take turns going and watching gameplay because it was very unique because it was a culture that I don't think I would have experienced without that happening. Because I don't know, are these tournaments always associated with a conference?
Not necessarily
on their own.
Not necessarily. This is the first year that they've actually done the Towers format.
Okay.
So that was the first ever tower, that first ever tower tournament, if you will. And it's an entirely brand new format. They have done other tournaments before. I know that there were a couple at the Collecticons last year. Caster's Cup actually took place. I don't think it took place at a festival, but it took place in Dallas of last year. But this is the first time that MetaZoo honestly has tried to make a standalone competitive format, I feel. Last year they did a really good job of putting stuff together, but this one is very concise and there's a full plan moving forward, all leading up to the 7 Towers and then Caster's Cup up in October, which is going to be at New York Comic-Con. So a lot of them, I think now, because originally the idea was that the towers would have physical locations. You can kind of almost equate them to Pokemon gyms. But the first year for these, I don't believe that most of the locations of where these tower events are taking place are where they're physically going to be located. All of them this year are taking place, though, at some sort of a festival or a Collecticon, I believe, culminating up to the Dark Tower in September at Mothman Festival, which I highly recommend everybody to go to. It was my favorite event I went to last year. It was amazing to actually see downtown Point Pleasant just packed with people. I got to actually talk to the owner and curator of the Mothman Museum. One of my favorite videos I've ever made was actually I called it Operation Point Pleasant, because I went there with the intention with 2 other community members from MetaZoo. One of them's actually a partner, John, who owns Immortal Workshop, and then we know him in the Discord as Dad Hat. The 3 of us went, literally, we had t-shirts that said, ask us about MetaZoo. We were going there to talk to people about MetaZoo, spread the good word. And it was so much fun and it made me realize, and I know I'm monologuing at the second, so I apologize, but
That's what I brought you on here for.
it made me realize that MetaZoo hit something unique. And I know I've said it before on my channel and talking about other stuff, but there's something special about what Pokemon did back in the day. And the difference is though, is that everybody picked their favorite one. I like this one because it has wings, or I like this one because it can shoot water. With cryptids, it's different though, because these are stories that we grew up with. These are things that are local to us. Everybody has a different story. Some people have seen them, some haven't, but it's all part of our own personal lore, our own personal story. And to see 22,000 people who were in love with cryptids in this small little tiny main street of a small town in West Virginia, it completely made me feel like the moon, the sky, the universe is the limit when it comes to MetaZoo, because everybody can relate to cryptids in some capacity.
Yeah.
Everybody has some sort of connection to some story, even down to the one I always use. It's kind of funny because I lost my mind when I actually realized it live on stream, mind you. But Rocky Mountain barking spiders. It's a card that is in UFO. Yeah, exactly. And it took me forever to realize that they were literally talking about the barking spiders, and somebody farts and you're young and your granddad or somebody
that's the
they're like,
spider.
oh, the barking spider. I lost my mind when I made the connection. I'm not even kidding you. So even down to little funny small things like that, like Dean right there, he's talking about drop bears. Drop bears are real. Like, there's so much that is personal to us when it comes to these type of creatures, these type of phenomena. And that's one of the reasons why I have full faith in the franchise. And that's MetaZoo is going to stay here. And it's literally, in my opinion, it might take them 10 years, but they're going to be the #1 franchise, in my opinion.
So I 100% agree with you. And I think you're right so the cryptid fandom was already here. The cryptid, so it's a tailor-made thing that people already have their special connections for their cryptids. So when you pull that card, it's even more special. Stuff like that. Like the giant. So now I'm going to mess it up. Emily's the collector. I love MetaZoo too, but my wife's the real big collector. The fire salamanders.
Okay.
From one of the card packs. I cannot remember which set it's in, but it's one of my favorites. I got it right. We'll go through in a bit.
Okay, yeah. I can't think of that one off the top of my head.
But it's made after real fire salamanders. I have them in the other room. So they got blamed for starting fires in the Middle Ages. So they literally made the salamander that starts fires.
That's awesome.
And it's fire. Yeah, I just love it because it's just like you're saying, all that fun stuff, and that's just connections with that stuff. But
and it's the beautiful thing about MetaZoo is that they don't just use the well-known cryptids. They'll actually find like the obscure ones that no one has ever heard of before. And that's the beautiful thing I love telling. Like, I'm looking over here right now, and I'm right in front of me. There's a Goofus bird. That is a real cryptid. And that's the thing, is that people don't realize that all of the cryptids, all of the beasties that they use on these cards have their own story. They have their own folklore in real life. And I love it. It's great. And that's another reason why it's endless, because there's thousands of these creatures. I mean, I can't remember what his name was, but he was the only person I actually got a chance to actually watch the presentation at CryptidCon. But his big thing, his presentation was about holler monsters, and he was saying that every holler in West Virginia has a cryptid, and it's true.
I know who you're talking about now. I can't remember his name.
I can't remember his name either, and it's killing me right now because he was amazing. He's the one that did the entire report video on Robert the Doll. He actually had the Robert the Doll replica with him at CryptidCon.
Now, with all due respect to Robert and all things associated, respectfully, that'll be the last time we mention your name.
So I'm so sorry, Robert. I should have asked your permission before I actually mentioned you. I apologize. That's correct. So thank you for blessing us for just a moment with your presence. I thank you so much. I appreciate that, good sir. I'm
in a room with a lot of expensive gear. I don't want to just start exploding.
I hear you. I showed you the pop wall behind me, 100%. Like I made all of these shelves actually in 2020. So like, please, I apologize. I apologize for mentioning your name, my man. I'm so sorry, friend.
But yeah, no, continue. I'm sorry.
I I got a little sidetracked because and that's the crazy thing too, is that like I actually got to talk to him about the whole lore regarding the every all of that, and it's so there's so much that is out there, and that's the beautiful thing too, is that MetaZoo's only really scratched the surface, and we're about to go to Yokai Island coming up next year. Going to be the next big block out of Cryptid Nation, and then that's going to open up a plethora of brand new yokai. And that's the thing, a lot of people don't realize, is that yokai were actually part of Japanese court over 1,000 years ago. And then from there, we're going to go to the Grimm's Kingdom, which is all of the Grimm's fairy tales, which are a lot darker than most people actually think.
Yeah, they are.
They're really dark. And for like, there's just so much that they can expound on. I'm so excited for the future.
It's gonna be awesome, and it's just the amount of time and energy they're pouring into the cryptid community. Also,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're deeply ingrained. It's just awesome. I mean, Crypticon, but even Frogman Fest and some other conferences, there's always at least somebody there from MetaZoo.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird, somebody, not weird, but it's just, it's neat to see one of them pop up. And half the time, it's one of the artists or something like that. It's an actual person from MetaZoo, not somebody they paid $20 to go out. And so that's the amount of care they put in the community is what I always respected. I mean, they sponsor pretty much every big event they can,
Yep.
And it's not cheap, but it's just something nice to see.
Well, and that was one of the beautiful things about CryptidCon that it actually showed me, was there are so many amazing people, like outside of MetaZoo. There are so many amazing people in the cryptid community, because I'll be honest with you, a year ago, I hadn't started diving into creating into the videos. I hadn't really started diving into the lore hardcore like I have been over the last 9-10 months. And just the few people that I've been able to meet from the cryptid community by itself have been amazing, and they're fully supportive of what I'm doing, because it's highlighting something that they're very passionate about. And so CryptidCon made me realize that not only is MetaZoo creating this amazing story, this amazing world, but they're lifting my big mantra is, when it comes to content creators in MetaZoo, is I try to lift every content creator up in that covers MetaZoo, because the more of us that are out there, the more of us that are actually talking about the game, the more people are actually going to hear about it. So instead of trying to compete, we need to literally lift each other up. We need to support every single person that's trying to spread MetaZoo, whether it's ripping or lore or what have you. And I saw the potential of MetaZoo bringing awareness to cryptids. Like, cryptids are very well known, but it's still very niche if you think about it. And for them to be able to lift the entire cryptid community up, I'm so excited to see where in 5 or 10 years, some of the people who are going to festivals, they might actually be speakers at certain events, or they might be speakers for other things. It's turning that entire idea of the cryptid community being niche, like I said, and reversing it completely, where everyone's going to be talking about cryptids in 5 years. That's just how it is. So it's really cool to be witnessing that happening in real time, if that makes any sort of sense.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, because I'm not sure your age, but for my age, I was at the end of the really big Pokemon boom.
Okay.
So, it was already done by the time I was into it. Or not done, but, it was just Pokemon was everywhere. You didn't get to see it. And this is, like you're saying, that this is, MetaZoo is how old are they? I don't even know.
MetaZoo is only roughly 2 years old, 2.5 years old.
So
the Kickstarter,
the start.
Yeah, the Kickstarter came out in, oh God, was it? I think it was November of 2020, maybe.
And now they're sponsoring events, and they have a 60-foot Mothman they carry around.
Yeah. And I mean, the Kickstarter, it got fully backed, but there were nowhere near the amount of people that were invested into when the Cryptid Nation 1 came out. And then ever since then, the community has just been growing and growing and growing. And it's been really, I'll be honest, I wasn't really active in the Discord that much, probably up until about April of last year. Just because, again, I originally got into it because of the artwork. I thought the artwork reminded me so much of base set Pokemon, and I was a huge Pokemon fan. I mean, I still am, but I mean, I still have my full base Jungle and Fossil sets, most of Team Rocket. Like I have most of my cards from when I was a kid, and I saw the artwork. A buddy of mine who owns a game store called Good Luck Have Fun. He's the one. He's like, hey, you should check this out. And I'm like, well, okay, well, give me a booster box and a spell book. And so I actually got one booster box and one spell book. And by the time that I actually received the Crypto Nation 1 spellbook and booster box, I was like, okay, I'm not ripping this booster box. I'll rip the spellbook, but I need more of this because the artwork, it something nostalgic just brought me into it.
It's definitely addictive. I mean,
Oh, 100%.
We talked off camera. We're getting a new studio. We actually have a building we're renovating and moving it into a professional podcast studio. The podcast table is, and I know me and you already talked about, for everybody at home, is going to be a wood table that has MetaZoo cards in the table under the epoxy.
So sweet.
So we're actually arguing right now. We're arguing right now what's going to be in there. So Emily, let me pull it up. Emily got lucky. What's that? There's your Cumberland Dragon signed and then non-signed. And I want you to talk about that here in a minute.
It's just happenstance that Cumberland became my favorite. It really is.
It's funny. Their depiction. So the fun thing about the Cumberland Dragon with actual cryptid lore is that nobody draws it the same.
Yeah.
Nobody. I literally dozens of pictures of it. It's never once been the same. I'm trying to find Emily's Mothman's. What set was it? I can't figure it out. But Emily pulled 3 Mothmans back to back in a booster box.
No way.
And I think one of them.
Was it Nightfall? Was it Nightfall or was it Crypto Nation 1?
It's Crypto Nation 1, I'm pretty sure. Because, let's see, that was for her birthday in October. It wasn't cheap, but I bought her like 4 booster boxes of first edition.
Oh, wow.
But that's what she wanted. So it's like, all right. But 1 box, so she got skunked on like 2 boxes.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing high up, nothing, it was like, then she got 2 normal Mothmans and then a reverse hollow, I believe.
Oh, wow.
So she's all pumped, but she wants one of them to go into the table. And that's like sacrilege.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm on the fence about that. That'd be really cool to actually have a CN1 moth in there, but then 10, 15 years down the line, when you look down at it and you're like, man,
that's a 15 grand card.
That could have bought a car.
Yeah.
So I see the hesitation, but at the same time, that's a really baller move, though.
Because the middle is going to be like our favorites.
Okay.
Like Beast of Bosco and stuff like that. So I actually have an alligator snapping turtle in the next room.
Nice.
So we take him to shows and stuff like that for education. He's an education animal. But so that's like, anyways, got off topic. But so how did the Cumberland Dragon become your logo?
All right, so last year I was really new into the whole NFT PFP scene. Like, I'll be honest, I still don't fully understand it. But I wanted an egg because I wanted one of the PFPs, and all of the eggs were pretty much snatched up by people who had tokens and had early access and stuff like that. So none of them were going to actually hit the general market. So I was going to have to buy one secondary. And I was watching and I made a mistake and I bought a fake egg in essence. I pulled the trigger too quick. I didn't check the wallet. I didn't check the collection and I bought a fake egg. That was one of the videos, honestly, that a lot of the community really started responding to what I was doing, because I straight up you can go and look it up on my YouTube. I was like, NFT fail. And I made a video explaining exactly what I did because I didn't want anybody else to make that same mistake because I mean, granted, I hope I'm the only one that did that because, like, again, you should know to check the collection and other stuff like that. But I was so green when it came to NFT PFPs and stuff. I honestly just didn't even think about it. So I made that video and then went ahead and I actually sold off some of my collection and I bought an actual real egg. And the one that hatched was the Cowboy Cumberland. And so ever since then, I turned that into my PFP. I turned it into all of everything, and I have grown to love Cumberland. I don't know. I can't explain why. Actually, it makes no sense to me why that big goofy dragon's my favorite, but it totally is my favorite.
Cowboy Cumberland.
Oh yeah, there was a while that I was using the emoji with the cowboy hat on it, but it was too hard to find it all the time. So
Mm. No, I love it, and it's like the Coupling Dragon. We did an episode on it forever ago, but it's one of those cryptids that's, I mean, not really talked about. And I'm trying to. Did a general fight it? I'm trying to remember.
I'll be honest with you, I haven't really, and this is something that I recently realized, probably over the last 2 or 3 weeks. I don't really have a lot of Cryptid Nation, Nightfall, or Wilderness content on my channel because I started the channel just to do the comics. I don't know if you're familiar with Comic Storian. He's one of my favorite YouTubers. He'll take full DC and Marvel arcs and he'll break them down to about 15, 20 minute long episodes. He'll does voices, he puts music behind them, everything like that. And it's great. Like, it's how I pretty much know like The Darkest Day, Brightest Night. It's how I know like Crisis of Infinite Worlds. Like, it's great resource if you're into comic books. And I was like, okay, cool. Well, I wanted to try to find something like that on YouTube. And the only things I could find were people speed reading through them or like reading like a paragraph and that was it. And I was like, well, what's going on? And so I figured out a way of actually being able to record the voices, put the music, and I used the few images that are actually in the comics, but I wanted to bring the comics to life. I wanted to actually make them into a story. And that's originally what the whole goal of the channel was just to do that with the comics. And then it kind of evolved into the cryptid theory videos of trying to figure out the storyline and stuff through the cards. And then it kind of evolved into specific cryptid videos on specific ones. And then I did a couple of the song parodies, and I just recently started doing the Legendary Collection, which is primarily right now it's mostly Native American stories like Abibanili and the Humans. The first one I did, which is probably still my favorite, is the story of Odziozo. And I was doing all these stories because sometimes they didn't fit into theories, but they were still amazing stories. And so I wanted to, and that's one of the things I love about the concept of the set Native is there are 33 indigenous tribes represented in Native. And MetaZoo was only able to scratch the surface on every single one of those tribes.
Oh
So
yeah.
what I'm hoping is that people see this beastie from this particular tribe and they go and do research on that tribe or more stories or lore or cryptids from that tribe. That, and even ones that MetaZoo wasn't able to bring up. I mean, at the same time, some of those could pop up later on in like Cryptid World block, like 2033 down way down the line. Some of those could still pop up. But that's one of the I love the whole concept of Native just because they gave you a little bit of a tease of they told us some of the bigger and some of the smaller ones of these tribes, but they didn't tell the full story. And they're like, it's right there. You just have to look it up. You have to find it. And they're highlighting certain tribes, and I'm all about it. I don't even remember what I was talking about because I got super.
No,
I'm so hyped for Native. Native comes out in about a week and a half, and
I can't wait.
oh my god.
So I'm making Emily finish a set before she moves on to Native.
Oh no, it's so
She's
mean.
close. She's only missing like 4 cards for first edition.
Oh wow. Oh, that's what it
She's
was. I don't have a lot of I don't have a lot of content for Wilderness, Cryptid Nation, or Nightfall, because a lot of the theories that I have, they don't fully involve a lot of those three blocks. And so what I've been thinking about recently doing is kind of similar to what I did with the Native spoiler video, the last one I just released, taking like 5 or 6 from Cryptid Nation or from Wilderness or Nightfall, and then just doing a lore video on them, like a little bit of the backstory on them. Because even though we know those cryptids, we know like Walking Sam, we know Braxy, we know these, like they're big names, like Slivercat, for example, maybe even too. We don't know all of the lore. Like I feel like we started hyper focusing on a lot of everything like UFO forward. So like
Mhm.
I've focused on like Edgar Casey, I've focused on Morgana and stuff of that nature. But I'd love to go back and actually try to focus a little bit more on the actual cryptids that got us where we are right now.
That's awesome. So yeah, so Native's coming out in a week. So I'm gonna make me another drink real quick because I've been listening so much. It's hard for a guest to keep me quiet, just so you know. Good
I'm
job.
so sorry. I'm monologue. Feel free to
Good
interrupt me.
job.
I
I'm
apologize, man.
complimenting you.
I
That's a
feel so
compliment.
bad when we're over on Let's Talk MetaZoo and I go on like a 4-minute rant and I'm like, I'm sorry guys, I need to just be quiet and listen.
So, and then I have a couple questions and everything like that. But here's the first chance for anybody in the chat that wants to ask a question. Here's your shot. All right, I am mixing me a drink.
I like I said, though, I'm super stoked to actually be here. I'm super stoked to actually be able to interact with some of your fans. You guys do great work.
Well, thank you.
Like I said, you were one of the few that really stuck out to me at CryptidCon. That's why I was so stoked to see you guys at Water Tower.
Oh yeah, and then it's easy for that's our home. That's we're an hour and a half, 2 hours from Water Tower, so we'll give everybody a second. But I have a question about the towers now that you brought it up.
Okay, what's that?
I mean, so just I know we talked about off air, but explain what a tower is for all the people here that may not know what they are.
Okay, so the towers, it's a new format that MetaZoo is just pretty much created this year. Now, before I go into the actual format of how that works, lore-wise, the only tower that's really mentioned in the MetaZoo comic, because technically the only lore that we really have for MetaZoo at large is the 6 comics. I mean, we can interject some stuff from the cards and other stuff like that, but until we actually either have written word or we have another comic or something like that, it's all subjective. So in the MetaZoo comic proper, I think it's chapter 3, we actually are introduced to Tower Agua-Azul. Agua-Azul is the tower based out of Dayton, Ohio, and it is the water aura casting tower. They never, in the comic, they don't really mention how many different types of towers there are. I would imagine there are a lot, though, because each tower has its own medal, and in order to actually get the medal from that tower, you have to test proficient in whatever it is that they specialize casting wise. So knowing that, the towers format is something brand new MetaZoo just created this year. There should be 10 of them, one to represent each of the 10 auras. But this year there's only 7, with them all culminating at Caster's Cup, which is, think of it as like the championship, at New York Comic Con in October. Each tower is dedicated to one aura type. So we keep calling it Water Tower. The reason why is that tower was the Water Tower. The next tower competition that takes place is actually not this coming weekend, the following weekend, the 15th, 16th in New York City. And that's the Earth Tower. After Earth, I believe there is Forest in Rhinelander, Wisconsin. Then there's Flame in Dallas, Texas. I think it's Lightning. I can't remember what Lightning and Spirit are at 2 of the Collecticons, I believe. And then Dark is actually going to be at Mothman Festival, Point Pleasant, during the Mothman Festival. And then again, it culminates in October with Caster's Cup. Now, the big thing with the Towers format is your spell book. Now, it's the big thing the terminology is one of the things I really love about MetaZoo, because instead of actually having a deck, it's called a spell book. Instead of it actually being called a hand, you have a chapter. Whenever you have the Afterlife Cemetery and Limbo as basically your beastie discard, your spell discard, and your exile. Like, I love how they actually have their own terminology for the game. So your spell book has to be 60% whatever the aura type is for that tower. So, for example, the lowest minimum number of cards you can have in a MetaZoo deck is 40. So in order to actually qualify and pass your spellbook check, you had to have, I think, 25 cards that were straight water. Aura does not count. So they had to be literal water cards, like Ugwug. You could have neutral cards. You could have another aura in there, but 60% of your deck count had to be water. Same thing with Earth. It has 60% of it has to be. Now, the cool thing is that I don't know if I have one around me. Okay, actually, here you go. So this is Iceworm. Iceworm actually has dual casting cost. You can see that right there. It is, well, that doesn't count because that's one neutral. Hold on, let me see if I could actually find one that's, okay, here you go. So this is Tommy Knocker. It's 1 spirit, 1 earth, okay? So this actually would count as an earth beastie and as a spirit beastie. So this could be used towards that 60% threshold that you need for the Earth Tower. Like the spirit doesn't hurt you in essence. That's just something I wanted to clarify, because like Sans was the first time that we really got dual aura cards, which is I love. Um, but yeah, the crazy thing with the towers is it's roughly around 150,000 in cash and prizes per tower.
That
Uh,
was when somebody told me that, I was like, what am I doing?
I mean, first place walked Sean McAnelvey. He walked with $20,000 cash and 30,000 in MetaZoo product. Second place, it's something I think like 15,000 cash, 20,000 in product, maybe. And then third place, I think, is like 10 grand and 15,000 in MetaZoo product. I can't I'm not sure. I have a full breakdown on how the towers actually work, the prize pools and stuff, on my channel. But yeah, it's crazy amounts of money. Crazy amounts of money. It's up to top 32. Actually, I believe gets paid. It's on top of getting exclusive promos, exclusive merch, hats, playmats, all sorts of stuff. And the thing is that every tower is only going to get bigger. Water Tower, honestly, kind of was like a little bit of a test run, if you will. It's
Right.
probably going to be the smallest of all of the towers. But yeah, they're going to just keep adding more stuff, and they're going to just keep getting them better and better. And hopefully for the 2024 circuit, I'm pretty confident that for the 2024 circuit, we're actually going to have all 10 auras active. Like they're all going to have their own tower events then leading up to Caster's Cup at New York Comic Con.
That'll be awesome. And you guys, I mean, your sign up was like 2 hours long.
There was the, it was, it was a little stressful. Like Water Tower was a little different because they actually capped the number of participants.
Mm-hmm.
Moving forward with like Earth Tower, for example, though, it was pretty much, I don't think they capped it. I think it was open for a solid week or two. Um, but like I only expect the towers to grow. I
Right.
only expect the number of players to actually increase with each tower, and not just MetaZoo players. I really anticipate a lot of Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh and what's another one? Flesh and Blood. Like I really feel a lot of those TCG players are going to compete in the towers just because of those prize pools. I mean,
I
that's
was
insane
I was
money
getting ready
to
to go out
me.
to the car and grab a whole deck of cards. I don't
Well,
know how to play, but I'll start throwing cards down.
well, and the crazy thing is that like I've never I can't say never because I used to actually play a lot of Magic, and I never got the opportunity to actually play competitively, but I always wanted to, and that was kind of like the most I ever went when it went to card games. With MetaZoo, I'd never gone to a competition to that caliber before, like that scale, and I was first off I was blown away. I second off I had an amazing time, and lastly I got it. I have to compete more. Like
You got the edge.
it put a bug in me, man, and I have to. So like I'm actually going to the MetaZoo Gala in New York next week with my wife, and I'm actually going to be competing in Earth Tower as well because like
Awesome.
I need to feed that itch. I probably won't be
And you
able to
did,
do another tower until dark though, so that's why I'm kind of
yeah.
like excited about Earth.
But you did pretty good for water, right?
For the first, I feel like I did for the first time ever competing at that caliber. Like I ended with 4 wins, 2 draws, and 2 losses. Shout out to Kesey, one of the walking spams. That was my favorite match. I think it was match number 5. We actually got to sit at table 1. We were actually on Twitch, like on the stream and everything like that, and she beat me, which I mean that was one of my 2 losses, but it was still my favorite game because we got down to time being called and we went down to turns, and I got the first turn. She was supposed to get the second. I was supposed to get the third. So I did what I needed to do. I'd hit her with some damage and then tried to set up a defender. Well, she came in, took her first turn, and then used River of Time. Now, for people that don't know what River of Time is, River of Time normally costs you 5 water aura and it gives you an extra turn. The catch is, though, if the Terra River is active, it only costs 1 water. And with the towers, they actually have certain Terras active at all times. So you can't destroy the Terra pages or anything. Like at Water Tower, it was lake, river, ocean, fog. Um, there was a handful. There was like 5 or 6. There's one I can't remember. But she was able to play River of Time, which gave her an extra turn. So she actually, and that's the way this works too, is that when you're down the turns, there are only 3 turns. So if I took one, she took the other, and then she took the third because of River of Time. She got the last one. She was able to swing and do 10 more points of damage to me, ending the game. So not only did we go down to turns, and not only did we go down to the third turn, but she won by 10 more damage because I couldn't block it. It was such an amazing match. And I honestly, that match is probably what gave me the bug to want to compete more, because it was so much fun, not only playing against a fellow walking spam, but also just I've never been in that type of situation before, where we were table one, everybody on Twitch was watching, and like that comes down to turns in that type of situation. It was amazing. It was so amazing.
Oh, here somebody commented for you.
Me being interviewed instead of being the interviewer. We recently,
happens, right?
yeah, well, we recently started CNO over at TCG Island. Him, myself, and actually Ian from Cardboard and Coffee. Ian jumps in every now and then. We started a new show called Let's Talk MetaZoo, where we're highlighting different people from the community, content creators. We interviewed actually Dee the storyteller, which was awesome. I love Dee. Like, Dee's presentation was one of my favorite things about Water Tower. We actually got to interview Dean from MetaZoo Nation down in Australia. Like, it's been a blast, and so yeah, it's actually kind of weird being on the receiving end of the
MetaZoo
questions.
Australia, huh?
Oh yeah, MetaZoo Dean down in Australia. They do there's only a couple of partners down in Australia. MetaZoo Nation is one of them. For the people that don't know, partner stores are people who have applied with MetaZoo in order to be part of the partner program. The partner program actually allows them to get product easier and a little bit cheaper. It also gives them more support for tournaments, for like LGS promos, playmats, things like that, in order to try to help build the community. Dean has done an amazing job down in Australia helping to grow the community down there. Not only that, but he also raises a good amount of money actually for charity using MetaZoo Nation down there. So like they have their own podcast. They all they do is they talk MetaZoo and stuff like that. I definitely highly recommend it. Like MetaZoo Dean, Matt, all of them, those guys down there, like great guys.
Awesome. Dean, hit us up. We're always willing to talk.
Oh my God, that'd be awesome.
Podcast.
Oh, and they're a trip too. Like, I've only had the opportunity of actually having Dean on Let's Talk MetaZoo. I want to bring all 4 of them on at one point. But like Dean has quickly become one of my favorite people.
Oh, scheduling with people in Australia sucks. I'll just say that.
We were able to figure it out where it kind of worked for both of us. But yeah, 100%. I think when they interviewed me, they were I think the second ones to actually ever interview me. I think I woke up. What was it, Dean? I think it was like 5 a.m., 5:30. I can't remember. I'll be honest, the first time I tried to stay awake all night and then do it, and I fell asleep about a half hour before we were supposed to go live and missed it.
So we just did an episode with Weird Crap in Australia like a month ago. There you go. Appreciate the kind words.
I want to know more about the Dreamtime. Like, he was telling me about the Dreamtime. He was telling me about a lot of the Aboriginal cryptids. I think in your interview with Mike, Dean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we should have some sort of an Australian set with Cryptid World. I think Cryptid World is going to bounce around a little bit and actually focus on either different continents or different areas of continents. If I remember correctly, I think we should get one.
Awesome.
Oh my God, I can't wait. It's the whole concept of the dreaming, according to the Aboriginals, is amazing, because there were things that were able to happen that can't happen now that would pretty much almost be in essence considered magic. And I'm butchering it because I'll be honest with you, I don't know a lot about the dreaming, and I've tried to do some research on it. I can't wait to actually get some actual like Australian cryptid lore. Besides Drop Bear, like Drop Bear is beautiful, but I want some real cryptid. I want some real cryptid Australian lore.
Dean, I'll have to talk to you about Drop Bears. Me and you both know the truth, Dean.
Drop Bear is real. Yeah, see, Drop Bear is real. I got a Drop Bear right there. It's real. But yeah, no, I can't. And that kind of goes back to what I was saying at the beginning too. Like, my big thing when it comes to the MetaZoo content creation community, or even just the MetaZoo community at large, is lifting everybody up in this. I mean, he was saying, appreciate the kind words. I don't need to actually, you do enough, my guy, that actually highlights how amazing you and your organization is. And all I'm doing is I'm just telling the people, because that's the thing. The more we talk about MetaZoo, the more we talk about the different products or the lures, or when it comes to natives, the different tribes, the more awareness, again, it's going to bring, the more people it's going to bring into the actual community, and the more this franchise is going to thrive.
Yeah. And it's just like we've already talked about it a bunch, but it's just nice that there's something for this community that's happening like this. It's amazing. Even I don't know how to play the game, but I love that it's there every time I'm at an event and I see MetaZoo in the corner. It's just like, oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And,
oh yeah.
And Emily makes me over try to get the promo card. I have to always try to get the promo card. Dear Lord, if we miss one, I won't hear the end of it.
Did you guys actually do the whole picture and everything for the babe for Crypticon?
I think we did. I think we did whatever we had to do.
Oh, you better, because they haven't sent it out yet. It's still one that they're still working on. But that, oh my god, that is going to be an amazing promo once it comes out.
We did whatever we had to do. I don't remember.
Oh,
that was a lot of drinks ago.
I didn't really want it that much until I got the babe the blue Chibi Babe the Blue Ox stamp card, and I was like, I have to get that promo now.
We're speakers at the end of the year about Lumberland folklore.
Oh, nice.
Probably the funnest folklore on the planet. Stuff like Babe the Blue Ox, and well, your friend the Slide Rock Boulder's in that category.
I was gonna say, are you gonna cover like the fearsome critters and stuff too?
Yeah.
Nice. Oh, that's awesome.
Fearsome Critters, the book's sitting right there.
That's so cool. Yeah, I want to do an entire series. Like the fearsome critters concept is crazy to me, and I love how MetaZoo's kind of made that in, like, it's a tribal, so it's its own tribe. So it means that fearsome critters, they get the tribal boost, they get 10 life, 10 attack for every other fearsome critter out there. And I love, see, that's one of the things I really, really like about the lore when it comes to the cards, is that they incorporate the lore into the cards. Like, they don't just make an attack or something. They actually make something that is tied to that specific cryptid and that specific story. And that, the R&D to team, like, hats off to you. I know Logan actually is one of the higher ups in the R&D department. He's usually at a lot of the events, either teaching people how to play, or I think at Water Tower he was actually one of the two that was broadcasting or talking, like commentating over the game on Twitch. And just you and the entire team in R&D, it's amazing the amount of thought that you guys put into how all of these things operate.
Dean is legitimately sitting there building a Fearsome Critters deck right now.
What, did you not tell me you're coming to Forest Tower, Dean? Is that what's happening?
Oh, that's when you got to see the 100-foot. The Hodag goes right with your drop bear.
I'm kind of bummed that I'm not going to be able to go to the Forest Tower, because I think that's going to be the most insane tower out of all of them, just because of the 3-time Terra bonuses. Because the way they've been doing the towers is each. I don't know how familiar your audience is with MetaZoo, but on the sides of the cards, like this one for example, they have these little markings right here. Those are Terras. They basically they're static cards that you can play, that you can have in a deck, that you can actually put out onto the arena. When you do, it simulates in essence that Terra. So that one specifically right there was for River. So that means that when you play the River Terra, it actually theoretically changes the topography to where there is now a river here. You were playing over a river using with magic. And so the way that they've been working at Towers is that every single Terra bonus is 3 times. So something that would normally give something an extra 30 damage is now giving them an extra 90 damage.
Okay.
And so if you look at some of the fearsome critters and you start doing some math, and you actually start seeing some of the Terras that some of them have, it's just going to just be like one big slugfest with all of these different creatures. It's going to be amazing. I'm kind of bummed I might miss that one.
And then the place it's at, Rhinelander, is epic.
I know. But I live in a tourist area though, and I work at Super Galactic Games and Comics, another one of the partner stores, and it's right. I think it's like what, the 3rd week of May is the festival, and I don't know if I can swing that just because that, like I said, I live in a tourist area. We're gonna be super busy, so
That and it would be like 20 hours for you.
it's a 19 and a half hour trip.
Yeah, I was
just to
close.
get
I'm like, I just drove to your area this past weekend.
there.
I was
Oh
doing the
man.
math. I was doing the math from how far you are from me, and then how far Rhinelander is from me.
Yeah.
That's close.
I did the math when I was in Ohio, and it turned out to be about 19 and a half hours or so. I mean, I'd do it, but again, I don't know. I'm super appreciative to my boss Jared, the owner, because again he allowed me to actually get the time off. Also, shout out to my other two coworkers, Bree and Dudley. They're amazing because there's only three of us that work there besides him, and I was able to get some time off in order to actually go to Water Tower. I got time off to be able to go to Earth Tower. I mean, last year when I met you guys at CryptidCon,
Yeah.
I was able to get actually some time off to go to CryptidCon in order to make the content for the channel. So I'm very fortunate that my boss is actually supportive of what I do. He encourages it, and I'm very blessed when it comes to that.
So I think you need to start mixing it and setting up a booth for the comic book store or the comic store.
Potentially, I mean that might be one of the goals. See, that's the thing is a lot of I don't want to say a lot of, but some of the MetaZoo partners are actually just MetaZoo focused. We actually cover almost any TCG you can think of. We have comic books, Funko Pops, huge board game selection, retro games. Like if you come back down to the area, let me know and I'll show you the shop. The shop is it's
We would have
impressive.
loved to this past time, but we were so tired and we were so busy. We were speakers at an event, so it was just like constant. We were very blessed to do it, but it was
Well,
just
still actually where that was, you guys were still a solid 4 or 5 hours away. I want to say,
yeah,
easy, like
but,
easy.
I mean, we were already in the area at that point.
Pretty much. I mean, it was 5 hours when you've already drove to like 12.
Yeah, exactly. And then, will you explain to all the listeners about the wearing stuff?
Oh, okay. So yeah, you asked this before we actually started.
Yeah.
One of the big things people actually were wearing at the water tower were scuba gear, primarily more goggles, and that's because of this dude, this little guy right here, Ugwug.
Ugwug.
Ugwug. Now, MetaZoo cards, if you actually look, you can actually see the star. The star means it actually has a fourth wall effect. This one reads contract, which means to play. If you are wearing any scuba gear, this beastie enters the arena awakened, meaning that it doesn't fatigue. If you're familiar with Magic the Gathering or anything like that, it comes in actually ready to attack, ready to defend. And so you had a lot of people who were playing Ugwug in their decks, and so they had scuba gear in order to make sure that it came in awakened, so they could either attack with it that turn or they could keep it as a defender for the next turn. But there was also
awesome.
Well, there was one guy, and it was a really interesting deck build. He was using Lady of the Lake, and I think I had Lady of the Lake. I can go back real quick. Lady of the Lake has a really interesting card effect for its fourth wall effect. It's if you're not wearing a pink dress, this beastie loses spirit. Now, the way the trait spirit works in MetaZoo is if a beastie has spirit, it cannot be declared basically, it cannot be a target of an attack. So, unless you have other indirect ways, spells or something like that, in order to do damage, you can't target it in order to actually get rid of it. So it was very interesting. There was a couple really interesting spell books, honestly, at Water Tower. There was one Ian actually over at Cardboard and Coffee. He had a really good article, or he did a really good video about it. It was they used hornets, so it was a lightning water deck, and they actually used the radioactive hornets in the deck. And yeah, I'm really interested, like I said, to see as the towers progress, as we get more players in from these other TCGs, if we're going to start seeing combos that we haven't before. I think the Earth Tower is an interesting one because with Native actually coming out next Friday, the 14th, MetaZoo's actually already said that Native cards are legal in the Towers format, meaning that anything that's been printed in Native, you can use next weekend.
How
So
exciting.
it's exciting, but it's also kind of it's a little nerve wracking because if there are going to be people who are very adamant about how they, oh, I need that native product, I need to get these cards, but then you're also going to have the people on the other hand where it's like, oh well, I don't, I'm going to go completely classic and I'm not going to use any native cards. And I honestly think the winning spellbook is probably going to be using a couple of the new native cards that they can get
Right.
them. Just because there's some that are ridiculously powerful. I mean, there's a lot of real power actually in native when it comes to the gameplay. The other interesting thing too about native is there's a lot of focus, in my opinion, and I love it, on the deities. There are a lot of beasties that actually have the designation as a beastie deity. There's a lot of utility that actually allows you to like search for a deity or do this to a deity. So I'm interested to see how that's going to come into play at Earth Tower. Because the only other time we'll actually have any sort of lineup of a set and a tower might be Spirit, maybe in July. It depends on when War comes out, actually, what the official release date is for War. I think Spirit's the one that's in Long Beach, and I think that's the one that might be in July. I'm not sure. But yeah, the tower in July is going to be interesting depending on when the date is versus when War actually comes out, because War is going to be insane in my opinion.
So wait, that's another set already?
Yeah, native is the set that comes out in a week and a half, and then the last main set of the Cryptic Nation block is called War, and it comes out, I believe, in July. And it's going to, in my opinion, storyline wise, it is the last big battle of light and dark in Cryptid Nation before Sam and company actually have to flee Cryptid Nation in order to go to Yokai Island.
Do they sleep?
I don't think
the guys
so.
at MetaZoo?
I don't think so. Because it's besides just the main sets, they're also working on all of the other extra things that they do, like whether it's has the promos to do with like the revive boards, or like look at the what is it, the Bear Walker stuff that just came out, the PFP boxes, which are supposed to actually be coming out sometime in the next I want to say probably 3 weeks or so. On top of that, you have just a plethora of other smaller side products that complement the main set, and they're just all over. I mean, they have blister packs that are actually supposedly coming out for Walmart and Target with Seance and Native in them, and like there's just MetaZoo's been making so many big moves in so many different directions. Sometimes I'll be honest, it is hard to keep up exactly where all the product is, because they're like, well, we're doing this and we're coming over here, we're doing this and we're doing that. And
these
like,
guys do drugs or something, right?
no, it's not nothing like that. It's just that they're so like, if you go back and you actually watch the interview that I did with Gary King Pokemon, or Gary King MetaZoo as he's going by now, he goes in depth about how driven Mike Waddell, the creator of MetaZoo, how driven he is with this product, how he has an entire notebook of nothing but just notes written in it that go along with the story, and how everything ties together, and the mechanics, and how everything goes, how the entire franchise is going to be moving forward. You got to remember too, they're only 2.5, 3 years old, but they have plans all the way through 2033. I mean, Cryptid Nation is the first main block. Then you have Yokai Island. Then you have Grimm's Kingdom, and then you have Cryptid World. All right, and in each one of those 4 that I just mentioned, there'll be 6 to 7 subsets that go into those that make that an actual block. I mean, they have plans all the way up through like 2033, 2032, which is crazy. Crazy.
That's amazing.
It's so crazy.
I mean, that's probably why, to being that driven, is why they've grown so big so fast.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, being a year and a half, 2 years old, and having a tournament that pays out $100,000 in prizes and stuff like that is insane.
Well, here's the crazy thing: is that last year, Caster's Cup, okay, and we were talking about how there wasn't a straightforward like format, if you will, for competitive play when it was MetaZoo last year. They did a lot of tournaments at Collecticons and stuff like that, but still, Caster's Cup last year, the prize pool, if I remember correctly, was like $250,000. All right, the prize pool for Caster's Cup this year is 1.25 million.
Oh my god.
Okay, like that's huge. That's a huge increase. They're talking, and like I mean, I'm only speculating right now. Like, do not quote me on it. But if it's that same exponential increase, I wouldn't be surprised if next year Caster's Cup is 2.5 or 3 million worth of prizes.
Mm-hmm.
Just because of that exponential. I mean, you got to think the TV show, well, not the TV show, but the shorts, like little animated shorts and the book come out in July. And to be completely frank, I've been saying that is the last puzzle piece that MetaZoo needs before it literally starts the ascension to the top.
Start taking
Because
over everything.
exactly, because it was, and I always equate this, actually funny enough, to I remember the first time I went home and watched the Pokemon TV show. And it was the episode where Ash said goodbye to Butterfree. All right. First episode I'd ever watched. Immediately hooked.
Mm-hmm.
And I had cards before. I had some of the cards. They were cool, whatever. It wasn't until I saw that TV show that I needed the cards. I needed the game. I needed this. I needed all of it. And there's just something different about having that visualization of the storyline. And so once MetaZoo starts moving in that direction in July, once we actually start that process of being able to create that show, there's nothing that's going to be able to stop them. Like I very firmly believe that.
Well, I think you're right. I mean, we've already talked about it, but the market's already there. The people that want this is already there. You know, it's not like Pokemon where they had to create their own set of market, their own set of people. Cryptids are massive. Some of these conferences are humongous, and they're all over the country. Ohio, you know, I'm from Ohio. We have probably a dozen conferences.
Okay.
So now you have a card game based off of that stuff we talk about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like I buy the cards not because you know I've learned a lot tonight, but you know I buy the cards because I like the art and I love cryptids, and it's what I buy the cards for. And I'm sure there's a ton of people that are just into that. I cannot wait for the shorts in the book and everything like that, because it's real life. Well, as real life as you know some cryptids and stuff can be, but tied into a story. You know, it's epic. I can't wait.
My mantra has been that investment into the characters, Sam Sinclair, Rose Robinson, Adam Ackler, investment into the beasties. That is literally what is going to be the lifeline for the longevity of the franchise. Like, yes, at the end of the day, the cards are amazing, but if you don't know why that card is amazing,
Right.
it's just an amazing card. Like I always tell people, like now is the time to buy Ding Bell products, whether they're cards or whatever, because most people don't know unless they've read the comics or they listen to my videos. Ding Bell is the first beastie that Sam Sinclair contracts. So that's huge because
that's the Pikachu.
I mean it's one of those where like people don't realize that Rose Robinson is a friend of Sam Sinclair. Like that Adam Ackler, Rose Robinson, and Sam Sinclair are friends that all live in Point Pleasant. And like that's the thing. I mean, yes, Adam has a card, and yes, Rose has a card, but there are certain cards, in my opinion, there are certain beasties that people are sleeping on right now just because they're plentiful. But once that stuff really starts getting out, especially once it starts getting out to the masses, those are the things that people are going to be looking for. That's what they're going to be trying to get because they are like, again, one of my favorite moment in the comics is when Sam contracts Ding Bell for the first time because it was by accident. And like even in the comic, they're talking about how Sam just needed a friend, and Ding Bell recognized that Sam wasn't a threat, and so it reached out its wrench, and Sam put his finger onto the wrench, and from him putting his finger on the wrench, there was a spark, and the sigil that's actually on Sam's jacket was then etched into the wrench of Ding Bell, and that was he accidentally contracted his first beastie.
That's amazing.
It's my favorite. It's my favorite part of the comics, to be honest. It really is
extremely cinematic moment.
Like it was one of my favorite things to actually like, because going through and actually reading them and then doing the videos and stuff like that clip is like one of my favorites out of the entirety of all of the different comics that I actually did videos for. Like and it's super sentimental, and it's just, and again, it's one of those where like Ding Bell already has a huge fan base. Like Ding Bell is one of the community fan favorites. Not because it's Sam's first beastie, though. A lot of people don't know that. I mean, and it's been really interesting too, like the number of people that have actually told me, especially recently over the last, I want to say month and a half, that like thank me for introducing them to the lore. And I'm like, it's always been there. And I always encourage people, when you actually, if you go to my channel and listen to the videos, bring up the MetaZoo comics on the website as well too. I mean, read them along as I'm actually reading them. I mean, if you want to, because it brings so much greater appreciation to everything that has to do with MetaZoo when you know exactly who these people are, what their kind of thought process is, who they're actually interacting with. I mean, Rainbow Wizard, I lost my mind back in August or September when they teased us with the theme decks for Seance, because the Rainbow Wizard only shows up in chapter 2. He actually kidnaps, in essence, Sam, and actually puts Sam inside of a dungeon. And once M's spellbook for his own. M is the caretaker of Sam pretty much when the veil shattered. He adopted both Adam and Sam. M, in my opinion, is Merlin. They never come right out and say it. There's just a lot of clues. But the Rainbow Wizard tries to actually use M's spellbook, but all of the pages are blank because if you actually look at the back of chapter 2, you can actually see a page from the spellbook, and on it is the sigil of the thief from the Lesser Key of Solomon, which pretty much states that if this book is stolen, it is returned to its rightful owner, and anybody trying to read from this book that doesn't have permission, it will appear blank. And so that's the type of stuff that like Mike, when he wrote the story, he kind of put in there without telling it, like without really saying what it was. And the more info we get, and the more you really start deep diving into the story, the more you realize how it is all interconnected to everything. How they've tied, like the veil going up, for example. I did some research, and I figured out that I believe the veil was actually put in place somewhere between 950 AD and 1000 AD. And if you actually go back and you actually look at the previous like 200 to 300 year period before and after that time period, massive civilizations went under, city states went under. And so it kind of gives you the idea of, well, maybe there was some sort of cataclysm that actually took place 1,000 years ago that forced them to actually have to put the veil up that separated everybody from magic. And it's interesting how everything still connects, but at the same time, we don't have all of the information. So it's one of those where you're like, you see or you feel a connection, but you can't really fully prove it. So that's why in my theory is I always try to use the cards, because Mike has said that the storyline is in the cards. And so I always I always go back to the cards. And in most of the theories, I'm always bringing up and showing exactly this card right here. Like, for example, the whole idea that Indrid Cold can contract, or not even just Indrid Cold, but the whole theory that a human can contract another human, and humans are nothing more than just beasties that can use magic, is based off of the Salem's Witch card from Cryptic Nation 1, because it talks about how they were forced to do things under the control of Indrid Cold, and they got labeled as witches. So, and that's just on the flavor text too. Like, that's the thing. Every single one of the cards has some sort of flavor text. A lot of times it actually alludes to lore specific for that beastie. Sometimes it's just fun, playful banter. But using little things like that, you can kind of start piecing some sort of a storyline, or some sort of a common thread. And it's man, it's not only has it been extremely humbling that the community actually listens, because like I sound crazy sometimes. There's a gif of me walking like the old skit from Always Sunny in Philadelphia,
Yeah,
Pepe Sylvia. Yeah,
Pepe Sylvia.
yeah. If you go in the tenor and you type in a MetaZoo research, the first thing that pops up is me actually in that costume. Like I made it, the pop wall over there, I actually turned into a conspiracy web. And it was always goes back to Flork. Always goes back to Flork. But I start getting so excited and amped up and worked up about this, because I start seeing a connection, and then that connection leads to this. But then that actually backs up something that was said 3 months ago. And I've been so hyper focused on the last probably 5 months on King Solomon, and specifically Solomon's Ring and the Lesser Key of Solomon, because the this is the type of detail I'm talking about. The Seance booster box, okay? If it might be hard to see it on the video right here, but on each of the sides there is an actual sigil in the center. Kind of see it right there with the light.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Each one of them comes from the Lesser Key of Solomon, and it's on the top and it's on the back right there. There's two different ones on the bottom. And so that's the type of little detail that I'm talking about. And so in essence, think of it as like this box was keeping something sealed in. And literally that's what those sigils on the entire outside are magical sigils in order to actually keep this sealed. And it's the little things like that that just get me super excited and super amped about getting some sort of a book, getting more of the storyline. The Mike was saying in the interview that he had with me that if he just released the book itself was going to be about 900 to 1,000 pages long. Wow. So what he's doing instead is they're releasing it in 3 parts. So the first part will actually be released in July of this year. I believe the second part will be sometimes towards the end of this year, and then the third part will be right around the time I think of 7 Seas, the transitional set that takes us from Cryptid Nation to Yokai Island. Should be sometime around this time next year. We should get part 3 of Cryptid Nation before we get to Yokai Island. But and then I didn't even talk about the SCP set this fall.
There's an SCP set?
Oh my God, bro. Okay, so it doesn't, so it's interesting because I wanted to bring this up because you had said that MetaZoo was using all of these existing beasties, all of these existing cryptids, which is true. Right. Except for one set, and that's Hero Quest. Hero Quest is something that MetaZoo is doing in conjunction with Steve Aoki, who is a part of MetaZoo. But Hero Quest is its own standalone universe, almost, in essence, the way it's been described, where it works in parallel and in tandem with the MetaZoo universe at large, but it's not the MetaZoo timeline proper. And some of those characters that they've actually created for Hero Quest, specifically Hero Quest 2, are original characters, and they're going to keep doing that with original characters. As far as I am aware, and I might be misquoting, but SCP is going to be following that same foothold. I'm really excited for SCP though, because one of my favorite theories I ever did was SCP and the MetaZoo connection. And in that, I definitely if you're interested in SCPs, I definitely go and recommend actually watching that. But to sum it up, I basically go in and talk about how I believe the Foundation is an organization that was set up by an evergreen level caster once the veil was put in place in order to deal with the anomalies and the otherworldly creatures, objects, entities that affected a non-magical world. Because non-magical humans, when the veil was put in place, it separated us from magic. There were very few humans that could do anything with any sort of magic. You had to be at a evergreen level caster level, because it's a power level, in order to even just keep your longevity. Think like M, or think like Indrid Cold, think Morgana, things like that. The Rainbow Wizard is another one. And so the Foundation was created by an evergreen in order to secure, contain, and protect the non-magical world from these magical creatures that still somehow kept some sort of that essence, that power, even with the veil in place. Because if you go and you actually look at the SCP lists, you will find almost every single cryptid has an SCP designation.
Yeah.
Like the two that I love SCP-426. It's my favorite just because it's the sentient toaster. It's amazing. But the one I always tell people to go and look up is SCP-1000 because it's Bigfoot. And one of those things too is where if you just don't read just the entry, keep scrolling because there's more that's redacted. and I can't remember what level it is. It talks about how you have to be like a level 3 or level 4 clearance in order to actually read the continue. And if you're not, stop. Continue reading it. And it talks about how Sasquatch actually rose to a technological level that was above humans using nothing but nature-based technology.
Mm-hmm.
And it was humans that used that technology against Sasquatch in order to pretty much wipe out like 98, 99.6%
In one
of
day,
all of them in one day.
the day
Yes.
the flowers bloomed.
Yes. And what happened was the survivors, there was a council of humans that were part of a group of survivors, and they wiped everyone's memory, Sasquatch and humans alike, in order to prevent anyone from basically being able to do that with that type of technology again. It's one of the reasons why humans aren't allowed to be around Sasquatches, and the Foundation will send agents in order to actually capture the humans if they have to, because the Sasquatches have to be left alone because there cannot be that sort of interaction, because the Foundation is afraid that Sasquatch will actually, or Sasquatch or humans will remember that memory and it will ignite a new war. And like stuff like that, that's amazing. That's
I
so
love
amazing
it.
to me. But yeah, like that's the thing, is that almost every single, not every cryptid, but almost every single cryptid has an SCP designation or
At
can be
least the
tied to an
the
SCP.
known ones, the
Yes.
ones that people talk about, stuff like that. Not maybe not the end and feel horror or something like that, but yeah, I get. Yeah, I know. Yeah,
And so I think SCP is going to be along those lines. I'm hoping, I really, really, really hope that the way that I just laid out the Foundation is the way that MetaZoo approaches it, because
I can't wait.
it's so brilliant in my eyes that they actually lay it out like that, to where like, oh yeah, that was an evergreen caster that was trying to protect y'all, but had to do certain X, Y, and Z things, some stuff that you might actually agree with, in order to again secure, contain, and protect. Like it's so brilliant. So, and I again, SCP is going to be huge, because it's going to bring in so many new people to the franchise that don't make it in because of war, don't make it in because of the shorts, don't make it in because of the TV show, but SCP specifically will bring them over and introduce them to MetaZoo. And it's the things like that that really makes me super impressed with the company, because they're branching out. They're trying to bring in more of a base. They started with a core group, and then they added a little bit more. They added a little bit more, and it's brilliant in my head. It's so brilliant. I'm monologuing. I'm so sorry, man.
No, this has been epic. I'm all happy. I'm just sitting here enjoying it. Now, do you think MetaZoo's ever going to do a TV show or anything like that?
Oh, hands down. I
I
think the
can't wait.
shorts, in my opinion, I think the shorts are to either think of. I keep equating the
That's the
shorts. Well, you remember when Overwatch actually first came out, or right before Overwatch came out, they
Yeah.
started doing like the 8 to 12 minute shorts or so.
Yes.
I think that's this in my head, and again, this is just speculative. That's what the shorts are trying to do. They're trying to increase awareness, increase hype, get people interested in the storyline and lore. Because again, like I said, I feel that is the last big missing piece that they need. And then once that's put in place, this huge big picture will be revealed. Um, but 100%, what I know so far about the TV show is, I can't remember the actual name of the. They already have a production company that's actually going to be working on it. It's the same guys that did the Lego movies, I believe.
Oh,
Um,
that's awesome.
but it's going to be drawn in the MetaZoo stylized art that they have. But it's going to be similar to, if you're familiar with it, like the Castlevania show. That's what it's been equated to on Netflix.
Okay. Yeah, I know. Yeah, okay.
I don't know, honestly, if it's going to be. I feel like it's going to be geared more towards early teens and young adults. I don't think it's going to be geared towards kids like Pokemon was.
Hmm.
Just because like some of these things are terrifying creatures. I mean, look at Wendigo. That would scare a 5 or 6 year old, in my opinion. Especially if you did it like justice, like Wendigo, like big old mouth and snarling. And so I think it's going to be geared more to probably like the 11 to 13 plus age group. Um, but I'm so excited to see exactly how how they do it. Like that one, I'll be honest. I still dream and hope that I actually get to work on the show. Like I would love to be either the voice of Sam or the voice of
You got the
Loveland Frogman.
passion for it, I'll tell you that.
Well, that's the thing is all the videos that I did except for the Chapter 1 Part 1 remastered. I did all the voices except for I can't remember what her name is, but there's one female tower caster in Chapter 3 that I got my wife Chelsea to voice. But all the other ones, and I did that on purpose because I was trying to be like, hey, look, I can do voices. Let me work on the show, please. The last I did Chapter
Wink, wink,
1
nudge,
part
nudge.
right, like let me do something. I did remaster Chapter 1 Part 1. I'm actually going to go through and actually remaster all of Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 because oh god, give you a few voices now, Dean. Listen to you. I did.
You got it before me.
I started remastering Chapter 1 because I'll be honest with you, when I started this back in April, I didn't know what I was doing. I run my entire channel, mind you, off my phone. So I edit, I record, everything off my phone, and I got way better as the months progressed. And so I want to go back and actually redo all of Chapter 1, all of Chapter 2, because that's the first time somebody's actually introduced to the storyline. All right, Dean. So my favorite voice that I actually did in the comics was probably M's. And for some reason, I gave M a very bad English accent, and oh god, put me on the spot. Well, Sam, I don't know what you're talking about, but that is not exactly how you're supposed to treat me. That's just so rude. I made you breakfast. I know it's singed, but get that and go out to school. Just
Love it.
and that's supposed to be Merlin, so I don't really know. The one I really, really would want to do though is Loveland Frogman, and this one took a while for me to actually do it. It's funny because the only way I could actually get into it is if I have to go number 2. Well, this right here is kind of what the Loveland Frogman sounds like. Have to just tuck in the throat a little bit. That was a little bit harder to go into, but I have to go number 2 because it in what is it? I think it's chapter 3 at the last part of Chapter 3. Sam walks into the castle, Loveland Castle, because the spirit storm is raging outside behind him, and that's the first time he actually meets Loveland Frogman. Love is what his name. That's what he goes by, and the first time Love actually sends a fireball at Sam Sinclair, Sam actually uses his abstract power. He actually has the open awareness to where if something's coming at him, for example, he can actually see all of the different trajectories it will take. And so he actually hits the fireball back, and it actually splits into like 6 pieces and then goes back to Love. And Love is like, oh, I can see that you have an abstract power. Okay, cool. And Sam's like, well, what are you going to do? And he's like, I can tell you how I can actually defeat your abstract power in 6 different ways. And so he goes, number 1, number 2, and for some reason, number 2, that was the one that stuck with me to allow me to be able to just get into the voice. Like, as long as I say that first, it doesn't matter. So, like, I'm over here recording, and I'm like, okay. Number 2, well, Sam, you need to do blah, 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 like that. Because, like, I have to do it and then hit record in order to get into the voice.
I love it.
Oh, God.
Magical. It sounds like magical Kermit.
A little bit of Yoda, maybe a little bit of Yoda.
Yeah. You get that? Yeah.
But yeah, no.
Frogman, right?
That's the one. A little. I tried to get the lowness, the croakiness in the throat, but Love is also a human that is cursed. That's why he actually looks like a frog. He in the storyline, he actually can't attack another cryptid. That's part of the curse. So when chapters 5 and 6, when Loveland Castle was getting attacked by Orange Eyes, mind you, do I have an Orange Eyes card here with me? I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Orange Eyes. Orange Eyes is he is a oh, here it is. Oh god, I'm tearing up stuff. Orange Eyes
Ohio
is
cryptid.
He's a Sasquatch beastie. He is another Bigfoot, as you can see right here.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that's special about Orange Eyes is that he is a caster that is he is a cryptid that can cast magic. So I don't know if you can actually see it in this right here, but in his hand right here, there's a green book. That book
Okay,
is
yeah.
actually that is his spell book that is made out of tree bark and leaves. Okay. Should not be able, like, cryptids like that should not be able to cast magic. It is very unheard of. And so Orange Eyes is actually attacking Loveland Castle. And the other crazy thing is that Orange Eyes actually contracted the Crosswick monster. So not only is
Ohio
Orange
monsters.
so not only is Orange Eyes casting magic, but he's also, as a cryptid, contracted another cryptid. And so you have Orange Eyes attacking the castle. Love can't actually do anything to stop it because he can't attack Crosswick because it's a cryptid. He can't attack Orange Eyes because it's also a cryptid. That's part of his curse. So him and Sam actually have to work together in order to defeat Orange Eyes. Basically to where, like, Sam in essence creates a flare. Think of it like that. And then Love actually sends a magic missile in essence to the location of where that flare is, and Sam actually hits the flare with his baseball bat using his abstract power and strikes Orange Eyes, actually setting him on flame with magical fire. And it's one of the crazy thing too is if you actually go back, I can't remember what video it was. I think it might have been it was one of the seance theories, but the like remember, like I said, anytime a cryptid is actually contracted, the sigil of the caster is imprinted somewhere on them. Well, the Crosswick monster's sigil was on its forehead, and it, I kid you not, was the seance set symbol. It was the
Okay.
all-seeing eye. And so, and this was something that the comic, oh God, the comic came out sometime in the middle of the summer, maybe early summer, and it was staring at us in the face the entire time. So it's my theory that, going back to Indrid Cold, Orange Eyes actually works for the Dark Casters or Indrid Cold himself, or is contracted by one of the Dark Casters or Indrid Cold, which then in turn allows Orange Eyes the ability to cast magic, which then in turn allows it to be able to contract its own cryptid. And
Amazing.
dude, it's what I mean. Like, there's just so many small things that once you see one thing, because again, going back to talking about the Salem Witches, once I saw the flavor text of the Salem Witches, that opened up a floodgate of questions because it allows the possibility of humans being, in essence, beasties. We're just humanoid beasties that have the ability to cast magic. What's stopping somebody with more willpower, more stronger magic from contracting us? That's just, it's
Awesome.
huge because most people wouldn't even think about that. Wouldn't think about, like, a human being not only a beastie but also being able to be contracted and controlled by another actual caster. So, yeah.
That's amazing. Now, we've already done an hour and 23 minutes. So if you're okay with it, we'll take some time and see if anybody's got any questions.
I'm good,
we
man.
End it.
Yeah, no, I'm totally good. Like I said, I could talk for hours when it comes to
we're already going to have you back on again because it's just this is. I've been enthralled the whole time.
Well, I'd love to.
Got any questions? Take your time. Like, put them in, and we'll go over them. What were you saying? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I would love to actually come back on, especially at like a couple weeks after Native or so, when we can see some more of the cards.
That'd be awesome.
I am currently, we talked about this a little bit. I am currently working on a speculative timeline theory video. This timeline video honestly does start around 950 AD or so, not 2021, 2031. Like, I wanted everything that I've done so far theory wise, I want to try to include in this and see what the storyline from pre-Veil to the Veil being put in place, to Indrid Cold showing up in the 60s in Point Pleasant, to the Veil shattering in 2021, to everything that we've actually seen so far in Nightfall, Wilderness, UFO, Seance, and now Native. Let's do one together, Rob. Here. Oh, dude. Oh, man. I'm just saying, like, there's so much more to figure out. There's just so much more to see. There's so many more connections. Like I always tell people when I'm in, I love introducing people to MetaZoo at the shop. And one of the things I always tell them is that all it's going to take is that one new person looking at the cards to figure out a combo that somebody hasn't seen yet. Because the really one of the unique things with MetaZoo is that as of right now, everything from Cryptid Nation 1 to Seance to include Native in a week and a half is all standard legal play. So you can use anything, and that includes the subsets and other stuff like that, like the World Poker Tour cards and things like that. They're all like if they you can play them, you can play them, and they have no intention of limiting that. In my head, in my theory, I really do think that we might see the evolution of like the Cryptid Nation format, and then once we get the yokai, we'll see the yokai island format. And again, that's all speculative because they have no intention, as far as I know, of limiting what cards are allowed for standard legal play, which is, again, huge shout out to the R&D department, Logan and all those guys over there, because they have to take that into account when they're designing the cards, when they're giving them a certain life points, or they're giving them certain damage or the terra bonuses. They have to keep that stuff in mind. And now we're spanning like what 165 170 cards or so per set, and this is what the sixth set or so that's come out. So I'm just really interested
The
moving
amount of
forward.
thought and time put
Yeah.
into it's insane. It's insane that anybody.
Oh yeah.
There you
Oh
go.
yeah. Are there people playing or competing in MetaZoo events that have no clue at all about the comics and storyline? I want to say that number is dwindling. If you're very active in the Discord, which a lot of the big competitive players are, I'm too loud to ignore, and so you know that there's some sort of storyline or lore. To jump off that though, I still get, and that's what I meant. I think I segued before I finished the thought, but for specifically the last month and a half, maybe 2 months or so, I get a good number of messages from people on the Discord or Instagram or other stuff like that that are like, thank you for doing what you did with the lore. I had no idea there was a storyline with this. The storyline is what actually kept me into MetaZoo. And that's been my whole goal. My whole goal has been to make the storyline and the lore of this amazing franchise easily accessible for people. So it's not only just something that you can jump into and you can fall in love with, but you also have a plethora of resources to jump to be like, oh, X, Y, and Z, this is why you should actually check it out. Or to jump over to one other thing and just be like, okay, this right here is a really cool, like I'm trying to make it as easily accessible as I can, so as many people as possible can really just be introduced to this story, because the story is just it adds so much more. Exactly, it adds so much more when you know who Sam Sinclair is versus just looking at the Sam Sinclair card from Cryptid Nation 1 or Cryptid Nation 2. It means it gives you so much more appreciation for Rose Robinson, which is just, I mean, it's not a super special card. It's not one of the wild 7 for Wilderness. I mean, it comes in non-hollow, reverse hollow, full hollow. Like, there's nothing, if you didn't know anything about the storyline, you'd have no idea how special or why that card was so special. Dingbell, to go back to what we were just talking about, people, I mean, there are people who love Dingbell who are fans of Dingbell, but it's because they're fans of Dingbell. They're not fans of Dingbell because it was Sam's first beastie he contracted yet. And so I can't, there has been so much exponential growth in the community since New York Comic Con. And it hit another really big push middle of January, beginning of February. And it was really amazing because I asked in one of the MetaZoo hours, because it's great because Mike will actually do MetaZoo hours on the Discord every now and then. He usually tries to do one like once a week, but it's usually like once every 2 weeks or so. And he pretty much what it is, you ask a question on the Discord and it gets crazy there sometimes. There's so many people that jump in. But he tries his best to answer as many questions as he can. Andy pretty much jumps in and answers some questions as well, too. But in one of the MetaZoo hours, about middle of the year, maybe it was like second week of January, I asked Mike in the MetaZoo hour, what do you want to see more from content creators regarding MetaZoo this year? And his first initial immediate was, I want them to talk about the IP. I want people to actually talk about the story. I want people to talk about the lore. Because that's the thing, is that right now, it's considered MetaZoo is considered pre-IP, meaning that the storyline isn't fully out there, the TV show isn't released, the book isn't released, so all of this is pre-IP, which is it speaks honestly that I've been able to grow the channel as big as I have without there being a full IP fleshed out. When I'm fully dedicated to just storyline and lore. And so that tells me that there's enough drive, there's enough need for people who want that. And we haven't even touched the surface of the number of people who are actually been introduced to this franchise. I asked the same question to Andy, and Andy, his response was, I want to see more content creators interacting with more content creators, create content together. And I kid you not, ever since that moment, that's one of the things that gave us the idea for Let's Talk MetaZoo. That's one of the, like, you've started seeing a lot more collaborations actually in the MetaZoo community between content creators. You've seen a lot more people being interviewed in the MetaZoo community. You've seen a lot more content creators in general actually start popping up and appearing and making really good stuff. And so to fully go back to what we were saying at the beginning, I try to lift every single one of them up, because again, the more people that it's spreading the good word. Actually, hold on a second. I got to go grab this real quick. Hold on 2 seconds.
That's fine. I don't think you can hear me right now. But this has been about the easiest hour and a half of my life. I'll tell you that.
This is I sometimes make make little skits or whatnot for Instagram. And this is, I have not actually taken this off. This is the Good Book of Squonk.
Oh my god!
And so this is I did a skit where I actually go on Instagram and actually check out the skit. It's pretty much I show up at the doorway and I want to talk about the Good Book of Squonk. I want to talk about the good word of MetaZoo.
Gosh.
And I'm crazy conspiracy guy again.
I'm gonna share that everywhere.
Oh my god, it's amazing. But by saying this though, on the Good Book of Squonk, lifting everyone up in the community has been amazing, and trying to work with everyone in the community has been amazing, because again, the more people that are actually making content, the more people that are talking about MetaZoo, the more people that are engaged with what they're doing, and again, not just with the storyline and lore, but with openings and the collaborations and the events and the tournaments and the towers and all of the cons that they go to and everything like that. The more people that see it, the more people are going to be drawn into this franchise. And that's honestly what the name of the game right now is. Just on the Good Book of Squonk. Bring them to the franchise, because this franchise is amazing. This honestly is my favorite community that I've ever been a part of. And I always laugh because I had no idea or intention to actually do any of this time last year. Like, this entire last 9-10 months have been a whirlwind. Because again, I just all I wanted to do was just put the comics up there to where they were easily accessible for people to be able to read there, because I know some people don't like to read, so they could listen. Because the really cool thing about the comics videos is that I have them in the playlist, so you can literally just put it on your phone, clean your living room or something while you listen to them. And that's how it all started. That's how it all started, was just wanting to simply just make comic videos.
Well, I think you're doing an amazing job. And could you hear us while you had your headphones out?
No, I could not.
Good.
Oh God.
No, I said this is the easiest hour and a half of my life.
Oh man, I talk way too much. I apologize.
No, that's why I'm having you back on.
Oh.
Because for us podcaster, it's the easy way.
Oh, fair.
But no, thank you. Wi-Fi crapped right there at the end. Thank you again for coming on. Will you please, before we go, give yourself your shout outs again? Tell people where to find your stuff, all that, please.
Yeah, here I'll I'll type my name here in the chat real quick too. My name is Turmentic. I am the actually. Ooh, so before we go, real quick, two quick stories. Okay, so because we talked about this, and I told you I'd wait until we were live to actually tell you. So the name Turmentic actually came
Oh yeah,
from I used to play World of Warcraft, and I started out as a undead warlock, and I got tired of dying. I get tired of dying. I couldn't heal myself. This was back in, like, I'm talking like vanilla WoW, Silithus, like level cap 60, like you Leroy Jenkins era. So
Leroy
Leroy
Jenkins.
Jenkins. So I got tired of dying and wanted to create a new character, and so my warlock's name was Trementor. And I was like, oh, well, I'm going to make a priest so I can heal myself. And I named it Turmentic. And I fell in love with the priest, and I pretty much just kept that name moving forward. And I never looked. It's ever literally what I've used for everything.
Ever.
Um, I don't remember what the second thing was I was going to tell you. I just remember
Me
the
and you
whole thing
have a
about the
similar
name.
brain.
I just remember the whole thing about the name in World of Warcraft. It's kind of ridiculous. But yeah, my name is Torment. Oh, the whole Lorekeeper thing.
Oh yeah.
So that, I will say straight up, that is a self-appointed title. I got the idea from Disney, actually, or Luke, I should say Star Wars. They actually have a real paid position called Keeper of the Holocron. And that person's job is to keep continuity in all of Star Wars. They have to know literally all of Star Wars lore in order, if somebody has a question legitimately about a movie, a TV show, what have you, a toy, a piece of a prop or something somebody's supposed to use, this person knows what's supposed to be what. And so I was joking around back in mid-June, late June or so about, oh, I want to do that. I want to be the keeper of the lore for MetaZoo, based off the keeper of the holocron. And so it's I've never been officially dubbed the keeper of the lore, but it is definitely something that I wear with a badge of
I'm
honor.
officially dubbing you.
Well, I mean, it's something that I for the longest time, on all of my socials, it was the unofficial keeper of the lore. And then right at the beginning of the year, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go for it. And ever since I put keeper of the lore, it's no one said anything. No one's actually questioned it or anything. If anything, it's actually just made more people actually ask me questions, which has been really awesome. Because again, my whole point is I just want to spread the storyline and lore of this franchise. So that's just a little in tidbit. But yeah, again, my name is Turmentic. I just left it right there, so you can click the little button if you want to.
Yep.
It's the same name right there for Instagram, Facebook, Discord, Twitter, anything and everything you can think of. All you got to do is find that little cute Cumberland cowboy. I pretty much have that as my profile picture for everything, because like I've assumed that role of the Cumberland cowboy. But yeah, I cover all the storyline and lore of MetaZoo. I do theories based off of what I think the storyline is, based off of what the cards tell us. And I've also do videos based on particular cryptids, or recently I've been doing legendary collection videos based off of specific indigenous tribe beliefs or stories. So yeah, man, thank you so much. This has been so
Thank
much
you
fun.
again.
I don't ever get a chance to really just gush like lore a
Or you're
lot.
gonna get it a second time and probably a third time already.
Awesome, dude! I
No.
can't wait. I can't wait. Oh, I should have the timeline video definitely finished by then. So I would love to come back and talk to you actually more about the timeline and exactly get your thoughts, and maybe some of the community's thoughts on exactly what they think I might have gotten right. And that's the thing, is that I love creating these theories to go back later on to see what I got right, what I got wrong. I'm really excited with Native, because out of all of the cards, if you go through and look at all of the all of the Native theory videos that I made, the only one really that I got wrong was the basket of corn. I thought it actually had to do with Corn Mother and the cardinal directions, because of the different color of corn that's actually represented in the picture. It's the only one that I think I actually got wrong, because it literally is just a basket of corn. I do think that Corn Mother and other stuff like that is going to pop up, but that I got really in depth on, like, blue means this, red means that. It's because Sam has to go out west in order to learn something to go out east, and that's the only color of corn that's actually not represented in this basket that's spilled over on the ground, and it's literally just basket of corn. Yeah, I mean it's a banging artifact. I'll tell you what, it's a little powerful. But like Oziozo and Winlegalis and things like that, those were ones that I actually was able to successfully to call like a couple months ago before we started getting spoiler packs and stuff like that. So native has been probably one of my favorite sets to actually cover, and I can't wait to actually get some of the packs to rip and actually see these cards in person.
Awesome. So we like to end it. Me and you will count down from 3, and we'll scream by, and then we'll go.
All right, I love it, my man.
All right, 3, 2, 1.
Bye.